You're listening to Mr. Credit on San Diego 1700 with local credit expert Derek Evans. Now, live in studio, Mr. Credit.
Welcome to Mr. Credit. We are live and local here in San Diego, bringing you the most important hour in radio and telling you everything that they don't want you to know about consumer credit scoring. The banks, the bureaus, you name it, the government, everybody's involved. The significant levels of greed and corruption, you wouldn't believe it unless you heard it from me. Padres still in first place after losing to the Giants last night. We'll be taking on our arch enemy, the Los Angeles Dodgers, tonight. At 7 p.m. in L.A., you can listen to all the San Diego Padres games right here on San Diego 1700, so save this station in your dial. Today we're going to be talking about debt collection, the truth behind that, some of the laws that might be changing with regard to that, what your rights are if a collector is coming after you. Saving money. How about that? Everybody's looking to save some money. We're going to tell you how you can save thousands and thousands of dollars by exercising your legal rights. We're also going to be giving you the truth about bankruptcy, how it affects your credit, myths, everything you need to know. Okay, there's a lot of myths out there. Everyone knows that one of my true goals in life is to educate people, not just about how credit works, but about the truths that exist within your financial life. And bankruptcy is one of the things that I really believe in for a lot of people because I've seen it change people's lives. Today in studio we have Lisa Bowman with the McDonald Legal Group. Lisa, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's always wonderful to see you. Being blessed by your presence, I appreciate.
I appreciate it.
We're going to be talking a lot about bankruptcy today. Don't forget you can email us. Go to mrcreditradio.com and click on the contact button if you have questions. We will get to them as quickly as we can. So we're going to start with a news story today from Bloomberg. I thought it was pretty interesting. And, you know, I try to bring these things because you see the headlines and you think that it means something. But if you get to just the first two paragraphs, you're going to find out what the truth is. So this one, it's from a few days back, but it's basically from Bloomberg saying consumer borrowing in the U.S. unexpectedly rose in March for the second time in 3 months, indicating that Americans are becoming more optimistic about the recovery of the economy. So confidence to finance spending may grow as people are hired after the creation of 290,000 jobs in April, most in 4 years. Consumer purchases, which are about 70% of the economy, rose at the fastest pace in 3 years. Now, what's interesting is that they're saying that people are borrowing more money.
Right.
And that is the reason that because they're borrowing money because they're confident in the economy.
Right. How does that make any sense at all? I agree.
So people are borrowing money because they don't have any money.
They can't have it spend on. If they had the money, then they wouldn't be borrowing it. So I don't see anything indicating that's a plus in the rise in the economy.
Well, listen to this. Listen to this. And then it goes on in quote. Consumption has recovered in recent months and should continue to recover in light of an improving jobs market. So consumption has recovered. And people are borrowing more money. Maybe it's the fact that people borrowing this money has caused consumption to recover.
Exactly. The vicious cycle.
Yeah, that seems to be what makes sense to me. If people are borrowing money, that doesn't mean that they're confident in anything. That means that they got sick of not going to Outback 3 times a week, trying to pinch pennies and not have debt. And they just decided that, you know what, we're going to take on this debt. Screw it. We're used to living the American lifestyle. We're not going to change it. We're going to go back. We're going to go have the Outback, hit the mall up for some, wasteful purchases here and there, or buy knickknacks or whatever it is that people want to do. They just decided that they're not going to change their habits for the sake of trying to be thrifty.
Right.
That's my opinion. And if you read this, it makes sense. Hey, people are borrowing more and consumption has recovered. Okay, that's the key here. It's not the headline, consumer credit in U.S. increased $2 billion in March. That isn't really indicative of what's happening. Now, you'll notice that the media is constantly painting this picture that everything is great and rosy. I don't know if they're trying to make you feel bad if you're not in that position or if they're trying to psychologically send you in that direction. I don't know what their purpose is here or if it's just the administration trying to make it seem like they're doing a good job. I don't know. All I know is that the truth is harder and harder to find when it comes to anything involving money. Anything involving money, whether it's your credit, whether it's your job, whether it's the government, taxes, you name it. The truth is getting harder and harder to find, and I'm trying to bring it to you as often as I can. That's the point. That's the point of the show.
Yeah, and we shouldn't be, the government shouldn't be telling people to go spend money and trying to put that in their heads. What they should be doing is educating them on how to create a budget. How about that? What a novelty, creating a budget for yourself to stick to monthly. Here's your income, here's your expenses, this is what we can spend, and then you don't go beyond that, and you even account for a little bit for savings Wow, what a novel.
Yeah, how about that? We
Right.
save some money. No,
What a
it's
concept.
That's the thing, and this goes all the way back to early school years. I mean, from junior high, grade school even. And I go out and I'm preaching the gospel for credit education, trying to teach people about how credit works, because this is something that we know is so important. Everyone knows that. You can't argue that. It's something that affects your financial life in significant ways. We read the story about Kenneth Baker yesterday, and how
Tragic.
his dealings with the bureaus led him to suicide because he couldn't get a family for his home.
Right.
And there was nothing he could do about that. But the education about credit and finances just doesn't exist in school the way that it should be. And like you're saying, Lisa, let's create a budget. Let's learn how to live within our means. But because it's tough with everyone shoving at you, go spend, go spend, go spend. Everything's fine. If you're not okay, hey, consumers are borrowing a whole bunch of money here.
Right.
You should be too.
Right.
Go borrow as much as you can. Because that's what's being shoved down our throats every single day. And then it gets to a point of, well, what should we get and what shouldn't we? You only live once. You're constantly seeing these things. It's in the media all the time. What are people supposed to do?
Right.
And I think it's important to understand the realities of these situations, and that's why I bring these stories to you. Something that I think is a great thing to segue into at this moment, since we're talking about it. There's another story here. It was in Yahoo Finance this morning, actually, and it's called "Carry a Balance? ? Banks may be gaming your payments." Now, I'm going to read you a little bit of the story. Yeah. This is a bad one. Now, I talk about the significant level of corruption and greed that exists within the banking system. And you have to understand they are doing every little possible thing they can to gain money from you. Now, think about the way that, think of a banker like this. A good banker, is someone who thinks about, well, if we save 8 cents per customer and we have 100,000 customers, we just made this much money. That's the way they think. So when you think about these big banks, they have hundreds of thousands of depositors.
Oh, yeah.
All these credit card customers. That's why
cumulatively, it's huge.
It's huge. So they get a little bit from everybody. It creates this enormous pile of money. So they keep taking that little bit, and that little bit, and that little bit, and then just keep taking it, and keep taking it, and keep taking it. What's going to stop them?
Right.
There's nothing in place to keep it from happening. Here's a perfect example. We just passed the Card Act, which is supposed to limit these banks and all the bogus stuff that they do to steal money from consumers every single month in their statements when they make payments. And listen to what they've done to get around this. Okay, so here's the story. This is from AP. Credit card issuers are still playing gotcha with customers. Landmark reforms this year were intended to stop billing practices that gouge unwitting consumers. Yet banks are hanging on to a tactic that ensures borrowers rack up as much as possible in interest charges. Anyone surprised?
Right, big shock.
You know what they're looking for. It's all about the money. So the practice in question comes into play whenever portions of a cardholder's balance carry different interest rates. For example, if you go get a cash advance, it's a higher interest rate than if you make a purchase, if you do a transfer. Everything is on, there's portions of the balance that you have on your credit card. You might think, oh, well, that credit card's at 0%. But if you took a cash advance, that's at 20-something.
Yeah.
So, and they look at each portion of those balances at those different rates. Now, from the consumer's perspective, it makes more sense to pay down the higher interest rate balance first because it rises at a faster pace. So you're going to want to pay down the balances that are accumulating interest at a higher rate first. Makes sense. Before the reforms went into effect, however, banks would apply any payment first to balances with the lower rate. This ensured that the costlier balance kept fattening up for as long as possible. Now, the tactic was among those targeted by regulators. The new credit card law, which took effect in February, specifies that any payment above the minimum must first be applied to the balance with the higher interest rate. So how did the banks get around it?
Tell me.
Okay. The key phrase here is above the minimum.
So anything above the minimum then?
Anything above the minimum has to be applied to the highest interest balance, but most people are just making minimum payments.
Right.
Most people are just making the minimum payments. They're just trying to survive. They're just trying to get through what is a tough piece. It's just a tough part of the timeline in the economy, and everyone's just trying to survive that, and for hope for better times. And we're making minimum payments.
In the interim.
Yeah, we're making minimum payments, and what's happening with those minimum payments is less is being done with them than it could possibly be. And it's because the banks have that key phrase, above the minimum. If you don't pay above the minimum, then it's
not
just
even relevant to you.
It's just, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't even affect you in any positive sort
Doesn't
of way.
change
so
anything.
That's their way around it.
This is their way around it. So if you're just making minimum payments, the principal portion of that payment is going to your lowest interest rate balance first.
Wow. That's amazing and not so amazing at the same time.
What it is nothing surprises me
Nothing
anymore.
surprises me, but it's unbelievable. At what point do they have a conscience is my question.
Never.
Yeah,
And that's
a
why we
shame.
have to bring the show, we have to bring this information to you because you need to know this.